Hey everybody, and welcome to the post-sermon convo. I'm joined today, my name is Jono, I'm joined today by the one and only
Mottie.
Mike Mottie. Mike with a Y.
Mike with a Y.
Mike, you recently got married. Congratulations.
I did.
I heard the wedding was awesome.
It was. You were there.
I know.
So you should know.
I didn't just hear it. I saw it. It was awesome.
You were at it. It was.
Yeah.
It was great. It was everything we hoped it would be, and the amount of love that was just experienced that was pretty incredible.
Yeah. I love it. Maybe you've seen him leading worship, and you can say congrats to him and Becky. So we are here talking about True Story, the final week of True Story. Reed was preaching here in Westminster. Down in Eldersburg, we had Tito, who had preached in Hampstead the week prior. So he spoke on John 9, the man born blind. So I got a different message, but then I went back and watched Reed's message, and man, so encouraging. In fact, he mentioned that kind of in the very top, just talking about we're in this one journey, we're encouraging people to tell their story, and that sometimes we just need encouragement when it comes to telling our story. And he clarified, and it's worth saying again, that courage is not the absence of fear. It's action in the midst of fear. It's obedience in the midst of fear. And I think that when it comes to telling our story, there is a reservation and a hesitation. And I think that comes from a understandable place. We've all felt that. Like, this is me on display. Everything uncovered. What are people going to think?
Yeah.
How are they going to respond to me? What's going to change?
Right.
And so I just wanted to start by connecting dots with encouragement. Hebrews 10, the author, we don't know who the author is. Probably Paul is what a lot of people believe, but we don't know. And the author says, let's not stop meeting as some are in the habit of doing, but continuing to encourage one another all the more as we see the day approaching. And the connection there is that, like, he says, don't stop meeting. That there's a habit to stop meeting. He says, but encourage one another. The implication meaning you have to be together. There's a connectedness that comes with encouragement. And encouragement is receiving that encouragement so that we can have courage to go live on Monday what we felt on Sunday. And so we gather together. There's an importance when you join in Christian fellowship with other believers, with people. You get filled up. And I'd imagine we're talking to a lot of people who felt encouraged, excited, ready to tell their story on Sunday because of your time here. And then Monday came, and you felt empty again. And then the next thing came, and it emptied. And there is a pattern to being in community. That's why we emphasize it so much, that you might be encouraged to tell your story. So, Mike, what were some of the things for you that jumped out? That was right out of the gate. I was like, "Ooh, that's good."
Yeah.
But for you, what kind of stood out in the message?
Yeah. So in 22:4, I think it is. There's Paul is giving the part of his testimony that would freak most people out when he says, "I persecuted this way," and he's referring to Christians, and way is capitalized, which I thought was interesting because it's the Greek word hodos, which means it's a traveled route. It's not just a road; it's a path that someone has already gone down before, right?
Almost like a rut, not just a road. There's like, oh, this is traveled.
Right. You can tell someone's gone this way before, right?
Yeah.
So, and they use that term to refer to people who were the salvation story. And so it's the same word that Jesus uses when he talks about the narrow gate. It's the same in John 14:6. And so what really stood out to me was that we all, and Reed even kind of alluded to how people were scared to tell their story because they're afraid of judgment because of how messy it is. But where I think you get that courage from when you're in community with others and you're sharing your story is that we might all experience different things on that road, but we're all just following that way. We're all on that road.
Yeah. Paul was given a new way. It was like, I used to be in that way, familiar to all of you, because
Right.
that's the way we operated.
Right.
We're in a cultural climate right now where the way that we have operated, every way, name any one, is being questioned. And there's a lot, and that road is wide. And then Jesus says, I've got a really hard, narrow, wonderful path for you. And he, says
That leads to life.
am the way.
Right? Like he makes that that's a huge distinction.
Yeah.
That it's narrow and it's hard, but it leads to
Yeah.
life.
And it's counterintuitive to every other way that we see. It's denial of self. It looks like the cross sometimes.
Right.
It's hard, but it's the exact thing that makes the stories that we do have to tell so potent and powerful. We don't tell them just so that we get glory. In fact, it's a denial of self to even tell our story. 90% of the time, we're like, I don't want to. I shouldn't. I don't have a story. I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed. And when we can deny self and say, I'm going to do it in obedience to God, it's like, oh, now we see it in that countercultural, in that upside down kingdom kind of way, that kind of way. Oh, come on. Look. I love this. I was thinking, even as you were speaking, there's an kind of an antidote for people who feel that tension of what story and what should I share, and I'm kind of like, I've got my reservations. I heard this a long time ago from a different pastor. It said, share your scars, not your wounds. Now, this comes with a giant caveat to say, you need someone or some group of accountability to and raw honesty to share your wounds with. The antidote for that is it takes 4 people to carry a stretcher. And when you go down, who are your people? Who's your 2 a.m. phone call? So you need people for your wounds. But when we talk about stories for you to share, think of the scars in your life. In fact, in Acts 22, what we looked at Sunday, Paul was literally beat in the square. And in Galatians, the very end of Galatians, Paul literally says, let no one come against me, essentially no one come against my testimony, because I bear on my body the marks of Christ. And he's like saying, I got scars to prove this way. You tried and true. This patent, it is the way or no way at all.
Yeah.
And he's saying, I've got the scars to prove it. And the scars don't make Paul look great. He was a murderer. I mean, if we gave a mic, hi, Mike. I always do that. If we gave a mic to a murderer, you might have some questions. And yet we teach from Paul. I mean, all the time in church. We're always referring to. Why? Because he had the humility to say, yeah, it doesn't paint me in a good light, but it paints God in a really good light.
Yeah.
It gives him glory. And this is the gospel. And if it can save me as low as I was, as bad as I was, as bad off as I was, imagine what it can do for you.
Yeah. I think if the end of your testimony points to redemption, then that's the main point, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what all the other stuff looks like. Like there was a point in my life where I was like, I'll never get married again. Like I'm gonna take Paul's advice and just live the single life and God was like, I have a totally different plan for you.
Yeah.
But the end is redemption. I can redeem anything because I'm God.
Yeah.
And that is what testimonies are all about. Yeah. All that other stuff might be messy and it might be scary to share it, but you're sharing a redemption story with somebody else.
Yeah. Man, I love it. That's a good word. God is in the redemption business. He buys it back and transforms it. Reed said it a few times, but God is bigger, and praise the Lord. Because I can't do anything, but he's big enough to actually change me. And that's powerful. So we want to hear your stories. Again, we encourage you, tellmystory.one. Go there, check out some videos. You can submit stories to Tell My Story at crossroads140.com. We cannot wait. We've seen great stories. We've heard great stories. Keep sharing them. It's one thing to curate and tell it. It's another to share it. There's one side is being obedient to what we're asking you to do. The other side is being obedient to what God wants you to do. And you'll be blessed. So with that, we love you. We will see you later, and be blessed. We'll see you.